Welcome everyone. I hope everyone's in the right session here. This is the role of creative outlets in participant wellness. My name is Christian Tiongson. I am, let me trying to switch this up. There you go. My name is Christian Tiongson. I am volunteering at both DBSA National and DBSA Boston. For the national side, I am a support group facilitator trainer. I'm also a part of the chapter and support group advisory committee member. I'm a member of that committee. DBSA Boston, I am a part of the board of directors, chairperson of the creativity and membership committees. I'm a support group facilitator, mentor, and buddy. And I do see a couple of DBSA Boston folks here. So shout outs to Lillian. And I think I saw Jennifer too. So, so since we're talking about creativity, I want to talk about, what are my favorite creative activities. So like mine is playing guitar. As you can tell from that really, really cool picture I have right there of me playing guitar with my girlfriend, Bronwyn. We're part of a duo called Hunters and Gatherers. So I like playing guitar. I love painting. And a lot of people don't do this often, but I love playing with Legos, building models, Star Wars models with Legos and so forth. And it's really fun, creativity. As a person with depression and anxiety, creativity has helped me out a lot with my stability over the years. And so for today, we have three goals here. The first one is to kind of explain what creativity and wellness is, and kind of how to incorporate that activities to your chapters. To identify at least 3 creative activities that can be used to enhance participant wellness, and make a plan to incorporate at least 2 outlets in your regular support groups and chapter activities. So, so before we go on, again, as what Brenda said, we're going to save all our questions to the very end. I will explain more how to raise your hand at the part of this presentation. So what is creativity and wellness? Now, so for creativity and wellness, there are so many different definitions out there. While I was doing this slide, I was typing in, creativity definition, wellness definitions, and there's a ton. Sometimes I'm seeing, creativity used for problem solving, but what I'm going to use for today's session is creativity. The definition I'm going to use is the ability to produce artistic work through imagination or original ideas. So throughout the presentation, please keep that in mind. Now, in terms of wellness, there's a lot of definitions for that too. Everyone has their own definition of wellness, depending on where you are in your stability or your recovery. In terms of this presentation, the definition is the state in which one sees their strengths and finds ways to move forward one step at a time. And that is what I got from the DBSA website. Now, when I think about wellness, I think about the DBSA wellness wheel. Now, has anyone ever seen that wheel before? Just raise your hand. Okay, awesome. Some people have, some people haven't. I can quickly show you what that looks like. So there are 3 key areas of wellness in the DBSA wellness wheel. One is physical wellness, financial wellness, environmental, occupational, intellectual, social, and spiritual wellness. Now, when I talk about creativity and wellness, I'm going to focus more on the intellectual, the social, and spiritual side of things. There can be a little bit of the financial wellness too, if you're an artist that sells your artwork and so forth. And so there are different parts that are attached to wellness, creativity to wellness in this key areas right here. So keep that in mind as we continue on with the presentation. So why incorporate creativity? Why is it very important? I was happy to go through and research all the different studies out there on creativity. And there was a ton. There was about like 20 plus things that I found. But I found 3 that caught my eye. So the first study that I found was from Williams and their team from 2020. Participation in creativity groups helped meet participants' needs for belonging, support, self-efficacy, purpose, and positive emotions. Arts-based groups can enhance mental health. So that's really important, that, support, getting support from these groups is, I think, is the best part of that study, and bring in positive emotions. The next study that I'm going to look at is studies include in our review appear to indicate that creative engagement can decrease anxiety, stress, and mood disturbances. Through creativity and imagination, we find our identity and our reservoir of healing. Now, that's a very powerful sentence right here. So number one, decreased anxiety. When you're drawing or coloring, especially with coloring, there's a lot, coloring books is now a big thing for in terms of relaxation, mindfulness. So coloring can decrease your anxiety and your stress. And I think what I like about this sentence is that it finds our identity. So, when we're creative, we are, in the moment, and we discover our strengths and our sometimes our weaknesses, but mostly our strengths through the things that we build. And usually that provides us with different, directions of where to go with wellness. So, and it's a reservoir of healing. And I firmly believe that creativity, especially music for me personally, has been a healing presence in my life. I've been through so many tough times with depression, anxiety, and I found, being creative, especially with music, it has helped me go through the toughest portions of my life. So that's the second one. The third one is that creative activities associated with art resulted in the ability to express emotions, prevent burnout, which is very important for those who are working, and build resilience from the pandemic. Now, this is a very recent one. We all know that COVID-19, the pandemic is still here and it's still going. And hence the reason why we're doing this online. But doing creative activities when there are very stressful situations, especially long-term situations like the pandemic, doing these type of activities can build some resilience for yourself. And it also are good distraction techniques too. I remember watching the news a lot about COVID, and I kept on thinking about how is it going to affect my life and the life around me. And as a coping mechanism for me, drawing was a big thing for me. So I would draw on a piece of paper. A lot of it was building Legos, like I mentioned, to kind of distract me from all these different stressors. So it does help you with that resilience piece of it. And it kind of breaks up your day too, if you use creativity as a way to kind of break your day up. So if you have doctor's appointments in the morning, you can have a creativity activity after that. If you want to paint, if you want to dance is a good one. You can do so many different things to build that resilience and prevent that burnout. And as I mentioned, there are so many different studies out there that shows you that creativity is very important to individuals' wellness. Very, very important. And I see that Ron threw a dance emoji there. I like that. So this is only a sample. This is only a sample of a vast amount of research that shows that creativity can promote an individual's well-being. Now, on top of that, from my own personal experience, it's a great way to support one another. What I've discovered from building the creativity program here at the DBSA Boston is that I've became friends with a lot of my guitar players and singers in the community. A lot of peers who have gone through the same stuff that I went through. And I would come to groups early and play guitar with them, either jam around or, play a certain song like Country Roads from John Denver or something like that. It was a great way to support each other other than our talk support groups. It's self-directed too. And there really is no or right way of being creative. If you want to just grab some paint and throw it against a piece of paper, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to just make circles or make perfect, squares, it doesn't really matter. It's self-directed and is never a wrong answer for creativity. As I mentioned, activity partners, it builds friendships and a strong community. Now, I do want to say that the DBSA Boston creative community that we have, it's pretty strong. I know it was kind of tough during the pandemic right now, but I remember, meeting up with a lot of folks before a group and coloring, singing and playing music and talking about poetry. It does bring a nice, strong community. And actually, on top of that, we have an open mic, which we have a lot of people who constantly, come to these open mics, and it creates a nice little community of people who share their talents and share their work, which is awesome. So it not only just, we have our own community of people who support each other through, sharing and caring through support groups, but we also have the additional community of creativity. So, and of course, we all know this. It's fun. Creativity is super fun, and I think everyone agrees with that. So for the next slide, let me see. I'm going to pull up the chat here. So I want to hear from everyone here. Just type it in the chat. What is your favorite creative activity? I'm going to give you a minute to do that. I did see that some people here actually said Legos. Yeah, Minecraft Lego set here from Ashley. That's awesome. A poetry segment at the end of the support group from Eileen, which is great. Sing along at the end of the support meetings. Ron, I didn't know your support groups did that. That's awesome. Cool art ideas during meetings. Quilting class. That's a cool class. Stand-up comedy, music, drawing, inking, and painting, adult coloring, rubber stamping. That's a good one. Writing poetry. Everyone here has great creative activities, and I'm happy to see a lot of diversity in that too, which is great. Now, I know that everyone went through that whole list. I'm going to show you what I found for examples of creative activities. So, of course, singing, playing an instrument, writing, such as poetry, short stories, drawing, painting, coloring, as someone mentioned, collage making, which when I was doing this research, I totally forgot that making collages is considered a creative activity. Card making, origamis, scrapbooking, baking and cooking. A lot of people forget about that, but it is a creative activity, especially when you're making a cake and you want to design stuff on it. There's a lot of creativity in baking and cooking. So knitting, cross stitching, someone mentioned about quilting, sculpting. Now with sculpting, you don't have to have like the most intricate marble or anything like that. You can have as simple as Play-Doh and building shapes with that. I actually, at my desk at home, I have a little Play-Doh set sitting there. So if I'm middle of reading something for grad school, I'm gonna build something to kind of get my juices going. Flower arranging, that's a big one too, which I saw. Tie-dye art, nail art, Lego building. I'm going to mention Legos nonstop. Photography, dancing, acting, and more. Now, the list that I saw online, there was like 1,000 of them. And if I went through all of that, this will be a 3-hour meeting. And I don't think Brenda will be very happy about that. So let's move on to the next slide. Now, so I talked about the definition. I talked about kind of the research behind that. I talked about the different creative activities. Now, I'm going to talk about what we are doing here in DBSA Boston. So kind of the history of creativity. Before I became a group member, there was a creativity support group and an annual creativity forum. Now, the Creativity Forum is pretty much like an open mic that the organization would hold every single year in August. Even prior to that, I believe someone mentioned to me from the board that there were also different art type of support groups that happened before this. One thing that we definitely love doing every single year until COVID happened, and Lillian actually can even speak to this too, is that, we have a arts and crafts fair every single year during the holiday party. The holiday party is Lillian's thing. Lillian in the chat and the room is the president of DBSA Boston. So everyone say hi to Lillian. So she's also the activities chairperson too. So when we build events like this, like a holiday party, we think about creativity too. And the Lee Paris Arts and Crafts Fair is one of them, where people from the community can bring the stuff that they worked on. So like if they have ceramics, if they have jewelry that they made, or paintings, or I think there was one year someone made birdhouses. We would set up an area where people can, look through it and buy certain items. And it's been pretty successful every single year. And that's Lillian's thing right there. Hopefully one day, Lillian, we'll have our holiday party.
Yeah, you don't know how bad I am missing our activities. And
yes,
we had an artist, actually, Lee Paris, who we do one of our things about, she donated to DBSA Boston like thousands of her photographs and stuff, which I'm also in charge of fundraising. So it kind of works together, but I can't even tell you what Christian has done with this creativity. Fabulous, fabulous.
All right, thank you, Lillian. So continuing, we have the quarterly Mill Street Showcase. It's like an open mic. We have people who are poets, musicians, and we had people who did comedy for a little bit. And then when COVID happened, we changed it to a virtual setting on Zoom. We renamed it to the Music and Poetry Open Mic. Because of all these different ideas coming in from people from the community, we had to build a creativity committee to manage all these different outlets and to provide different opportunities for people to share their work. So one thing that we have done in the past is share people's poetry and photography on our website and in our monthly newsletter too. So we had this committee that will continue to grow every single day to figure out more ways where we can bring more creative aspects to DBSA Boston. So right now, during COVID, we have a song circle that happens every second and fourth Thursday. The jam circle right now is we can't meet in person. And coloring, same with the coloring circle, but although I do hope that the coloring circle will return virtually. Right now, we have invited an expert storyteller to teach members of the community how to tell their story, their recovery story or stability story. That's actually happening right now. We just had our first group of people go through the workshop, and our second group is happening this weekend. And I think the weekend after that, we'll have a showcase so people from those workshops can tell their story. So as I mentioned that, poetry and photos were included into the monthly newsletter, and that in terms of the future, well, first of all, I hope we're back in person after this is all over, but I looking to create a poetry and photography circle in the next year or so. So not next year, next couple months or so, not next year. So we're looking for volunteers to do that. So there's a lot of different things going on, a lot of ideas. And it's great that the community is providing some feedback on what they want, and it's been great. It's been absolutely great. So how do you start? Now, I know that, DBSA chapters around the US they all have different sizes. DBSA Boston is large. DBSA in Chicago was pretty big too. But also I know there are others that are on the smaller side. So the steps here, kind of more guidelines, not steps, but guidelines on how to start implementing creativity is all based on my experience when I started the creativity committee and implemented the open mics, the song circle, coloring circle, and so forth. So number one, I think is the most important part is to actively listen to your community to get that feedback on what they liked, what they don't like. So pretty much what I've done in the past is, sometimes before group, I would have conversations on what's their favorite music, what kind of poetry you're reading, what's your favorite artwork, to kind of drive, try to drive a discussion and hear what people like. One thing that is pretty cool to implement, if you do have a check-in and a checkout, is to have for your check-in and checkout a question. What I have here is, what creative activities are people talking about, or what is your favorite creativity activity? So adding that to your check-in or checkout is a nice way to build that feedback. If you have a larger organization, or even in smaller organizations can do this too, you can have a survey on SurveyMonkey or Google Forms just to collect that data. So once you have that data and you know that people are pretty hyped up about particular creative activities, this is where you can start involving your peers who are excited. People who are enthusiastic about the idea will likely be excited to talk about it and promote it. So I know a lot of people who, in terms of the music side of things, who haven't played guitar or haven't sang in many, many years. And when I brought in that program, people start playing guitar again. People start talking about music again, with people who get what depression is like, get what anxiety is like, what mania is like. And, having that kind of, that friendship and that rapport with people who are excited with the idea of creativity is very important, and it's powerful. So involve in your peers, definitely involve your peers when it comes to those ideas. When you involve people with those ideas and they're excited too, most likely, and what I found is that it'll be self-sustaining in the future. So at the very beginning, when I started the song circle, I was the song leader. I was singing, I was playing guitar for people. But as life went on, and life gets busy sometimes, I've had people step up and become song leaders, or help set up for the groups, and which was very important. It takes a lot of pressure off me as the song leader, as the person who runs all this. But it also provides something, something that people will enjoy, a little way for people to get involved with the community. There's one person named Michael who built a songbook for us. So we don't have to go search online for tabs, for lyrics. He actually built a PDF of like so many different songs that are popular, that are uplifting. So I think, involving your community and getting people involved, it'll become self-sustaining. And next thing you know, they're running away with it. They're running away with it, and they only would need help when they need something. So, and as mentioned before, it's like, you build friendships, you'll find people with similar hobbies, talents, and you'll build friendships. I'm going to keep on mentioning that again. Friendships are built when you're dealing with stuff that you like together. So once you get, the ideas together, you have the people, you have the volunteers who want to help out. This is where you talk to your board, your chapter leaders, on where to go from here. You want to let the chapter know, what you want to do. So like for me, I told our DBSA president that I want to start a song circle so we can bring, music into the community. So seeking out support from your leadership is very important. Also iron out the logistics. Now, DBSA Boston is pretty big. And right now we have support groups 7 days a week. So it's a matter of, trying to figure out where you want to fit this in the schedule. You want to fit it right before group, right after group, on a Saturday, the morning. It's something that, you have to talk with your leadership about. I know at least for me, I like submitting like formal proposals, documentation that would say, this is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it, and so forth. It's not required, although I do ask that you check with your leadership and how you want to get going with proposing a new group or a new activity. The great thing about, about funding is that there are, at least right now, at least before the COVID pandemic, there are a number of outlets where we can get funding. So as part of building the Song Circle, I got funding. We got a grant from Club Passim in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They have a fund called the Iguana Fund. And we were able to get money to buy brand new guitars, buy pretty much all the equipment that we need to build a successful Song Circle. So if obtaining funding through, if your chapter has additional funding that they can let you use, or if you have a grant that you can find that will help you out with your project, go for it. There are some activities that you probably don't need to get funding, like, typing up poetry or dancing. You don't really need any funding behind that. So it's if necessary, if it's definitely needed. And once you figure out the logistics, your leadership knows about that. You start talking about it within the community. Try it out. I always tell people to try it out one step at a time. Start slow. So maybe for the first time, you try it as a one-time event. Promote it as like, oh, we're going to have a sing-along that's going to happen next month, and we're going to see how it goes. And if it works successfully, then you can figure out if you can continue that in a particular frequency. So maybe once a month to start with, and if it gets popular, twice a month. And at one point for our Song Circle, we were every single week. That's how popular it ended up getting. So definitely take your time with it. Start informally. You can even before that, you can even meet up before a group and just start a little jam circle, as long as leadership knows what's going on. Now, after you do that, you find out that the activity that you're presenting, that you tried out, is working. There's a lot of awesome things. There's some things you may need to work on. This is the evaluation side of things. So what you would do here is kind of evaluate what is working, what's not working. Okay, so we found out that, in this room, there are no plugs. We can't plug in, a particular piece of equipment to do something. Okay, so we'll try something different. We found out that 7 o'clock at night is kind of late for a lot of people. Maybe we should move it up to 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. We found out, the Song Circle doesn't work at all. Maybe we'll try something different. A lot of people forget to evaluate what they do, and they also forget to figure out what to do for the next step. A lot of people end up quitting. A lot of people end up like saying, okay, that's it. It didn't work. I'm not doing it again. What I recommend people do is just to see if there is a little glimpse of hope to continue this, there's a lot of positivity, a lot of good feedback from the community. Definitely see if we can try it again with a different format or so. There's obviously different ways of evaluating a particular project and determining the next steps for that. So that's just very important. And I had to add this to the very end because this is important. It reminds me, as a grad student, to take everything one step at a time. So as with wellness, take it one small step at a time, plant your idea and watch it grow. Now, sometimes it doesn't grow, and that's fine. That's absolutely okay, and I would say throughout this process, be gentle with yourself and gentle with others. Um, Starting a program, it does take a lot of work, a lot of time, but at the very end, you know, it's a great feeling that it's helping the community. You know, thinking about all the work that that the creativity committee has done to provide creative activities to our chapter, it brings a lot of joy, knowing that it's helping people around Massachusetts and beyond. So some ideas to get started. So as I mentioned, and I know their chapters are different sizes. So for my first idea is to introduce creativity discussion topics during support group time. So let's just say you're at support group and, no one during check-in gave you a topic to talk about, or, no one has their hand raised and you're the facilitator of the group. As the facilitator, you can use this topic. So let's start with a new topic. Let's start with what's your favorite creative coping mechanism? Or what is a creative work that has helped you with your wellness? Or what's your favorite song that has helped you with your wellness? Something along those lines to kind of just bring that in there, to kind of plant the seed of creativity and see what people have in common. Actually, in my last grad class, we were talking about music, and I've noticed that that I have similar tastes in music as other people, and we actually talked about it right after that. So it does create that connection right away, which is great. Another thing that you can do is feature creative individuals' work. So if you like, for example, Tom here has some poetry that they have written in the past, and they've always want people to read it. So you can share their poetry on your website if you have a website, or your newsletters, or you can print it out right before a group and pass it out if you're in person, or email it. Sharing a person's work, it brings a lot of joy to the person who wrote it, and for the people who read it or look at it if it's a painting. I think it's a great way to share creativity that way. It's pretty simple. One thing you can also do is a show and tell, kind of like an open mic, where people can go in a group setting, a circle, and show their artwork. So here's my painting, here's a recording of the song I just wrote. Here's some poetry that I written last week about, how I'm doing. And you can make it as a community event. I've seen people make, community events into a fundraiser too, where you can raise money to get equipment for your creativity program. So there are so many different ways you can do this. A lot of creativity and creativity. And the last thing that this is all just some ideas out of many that I have. The last one I have here is in terms of online support groups or online coloring, you can provide coloring templates. There's a lot of websites out there that give free templates that you can print out and that you can share through email. Again, print it out before a group to color. So for DBSA Boston, right before the pandemic, we purchased a bunch of coloring pencils and markers and some coloring books, and we had a whole group that's in the corner of our cafeteria just coloring, which is awesome. I absolutely love it. And actually, what was very interesting about that some people actually brought in their own stuff and donated it. One thing I found out with my experience is that once you started, some people who love the idea of a song circle or coloring circle, I've noticed that we receive donations. Like we received an extra guitar. We got some songbooks. We got some more coloring books. We got more pencils. It does bring out a lot. It does bring out a lot of generosity in people, and because not only you're giving your time, people are giving away stuff that they've been holding on for a while and they don't want, and they want to benefit DBSA Boston with with coloring stuff or music stuff. So I got off a little tangent with that, but these are some ideas that are great for creativity. So I know we have about 8 minutes left, so I just want to make sure I stay on topic here and on time. This is actually the last slide. So with COVID-19, a lot of us went online on Zoom. And when that happened, we were thinking about how are we going to continue our programs online? Well, after a lot of research and a lot of evaluating different ideas, we found out, yeah, it can happen. You can have creative activities on Zoom. Some things you have to remember, though, when you are building something on Zoom, is that you really have to have someone who's proficient with Zoom. I know for DBSA Boston, we have a member of the facilitating team called a tech buddy, who will help you, kind of like what Brenda is, a tech buddy here, that will help you navigate through Zoom, help share your screen, help you when you have technical issues. We have great tech buddies here at DBSA Boston, I can tell you that. Allow for extra prep time and be patient. Technical problems occur. No matter what you do, I'm a person who prepares for everything, always get 100% prepared for what I'm doing. And there's always going to be a technical problem, always going to be a technical problem. So I sometimes, you want to pull your hair out because of that. But I always say is just be patient and provide an extra prep time. It's going to happen. Unfortunately, it's going to happen. And, it's what can you do? Zoom, what I found with music and jamming, singing together, Zoom can't support virtual singing, jamming as a group because of audio and video latency. It's best to sing one at a time or have a song leader. So what I found out is that when I sing, so let's all sing together. We all sing together. When we all sing together, you'll notice that there's a delay. So if I say I, and we all say it together, you'll hear I. So everyone's going to be in different delays. So the latency is not there. And when we tried it once and we're not in the same rhythm. So right now the technology is not there, but hopefully one day it will be there. Be cautious about the share function. I never had an incident yet with having people share their poetry. But once you share that function, most of the time you can't control what a person shares on their screen. So what we do here for our open mics, we don't have people share their material in terms of screen sharing. We want people to kind of just recite it as they go. So that's just something to keep in mind of. Do not run a group through a mobile device. There's a lot of limitations with our phones, especially on Zoom. Make sure you always have a laptop or a desktop that is that you can access to be able to run these groups. I've seen people, not in DBSA, so it's not DBSA, but I've seen people run creative activities through a phone, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. So just keep in mind about that. So those are my references of all the research that I have here. If you want this presentation, please let me know. I can give you my email. You can email me back. Here's the question and answers. We have about I think about 3 minutes of questions and answers. So thank you, everyone. Here's my contact information if you want to reach out to me. But does anyone have any questions they want to ask? Or if Brenda, was there any questions during the presentation?
There's a few, you had a lot of comments and suggestions about creativity ideas. I think you kind of went over most of them. There was a question from Kimberly to everyone. If you have to sum up in 2 or 3 sentences why creativity is important to stability to encourage people to attend a creative, sorry, my mouse is not cooperating with me as we talk about technical difficulties, but try attending a creative group when they are in the midst of depression. So they're asking, how do you encourage someone to attend a creative group when they're in the midst of depression?
So I know, like, as a person with depression, one thing you don't want to do is to force it on them. One thing you can do is to gently invite them, tell them that there's a group available. Even if you want to, what I found what's helpful is to get me warmed up is to, when there's a conversation about creativity, or anything about music or anything like that, when I do build the courage, I talk about it. And sometimes once that person starts talking about, what they like in terms of creative activities, sometimes they do open up. I do know a few people who wanted to go, didn't want to, couldn't because, they're shy or, they're very anxious about it. I would say, give them time, be patient, continue advertising what you have. And then maybe one day it'll show up. As long as you continue advertising about that and know that it's always there for them. That's probably what I would do.
And we have just a few comments. If you please put up the info again. I think you already have that up. And MB Tax just gives us renewed faith in our own potential.
Yep.
If we apply it to this creatives, and Eileen just says, thank you, Christian. And I think that's a good way to wrap it up. And because we're nearing our time for the next, I'm not sure if there's a next program after this, but we're nearing the end of our session. And I want to thank everybody and give Christian the opportunity to thank everyone.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, my email's right there. I'm going to put it in the chat quickly before we leave. So it's Christian at dbsaboston.org. So if you have any questions about how to start it, if you have anything about creativity, you want to talk about music, I'm all about it. So, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to here at DBSA as well. Thanks so much.
Enjoy the rest of the summit.